Welcome back to another episode of Baxter's Buzz. I am your host, Baxter E. Hall. Today is another So What's the Question edition with my partner in crime, Tiana Starks.
Hello,
Hey,
how
so
are you?
man, today's been the best day of the week. So I'm definitely trending in the right direction. How about you?
I'm good. Um, getting ready for the holiday and I got up and cleaned up. I feel good.
Yeah, it's not something like having a nice house, clean house, man. um I was listening to my first ever pod that I did with video. I talked about my playlist for the new year, and how I was like for whatever reason I was like super deliberate about not the songs per se, but like the first song that would be played. And I ended up going with "Don't You Worry About a Thing" with Stevie Wonder.
Mhm.
So I'm riding with Zara in the car, and I'm looking for something to play a playlist, and so I play, and I look at it, I'm like, it's about to be 2021. Like it's crazy. Just the thing. I'm like, it didn't even occur to me. I was like, man, I gotta start working on a new playlist for 2021 January 1. But so today I wanted to sort of do like a nice sort of year in review kind of. So a colleague of mine, she posted something. I was like, I'm gonna steal that. She posted a question about people's outlook for the new year. Like, give me a word that describes your outlook. And I was like, I'm gonna take that. I'm gonna remix it a little bit. And so I thought that we could sort of walk through a couple of topics, um, and figure out what our word is for that topic as it relates to 2020. So and I got some things written down. You're prepared, but there may be a couple of additional topics because we tend to we tend to jump around. So, but let's start with the pandemic. This pandemic, like what's your word to describe in your words or in your word? What's the how do you describe this pandemic?
So, the word that keeps coming back to me, there have been a couple of words that I've been thinking about since you sent the list.
Yeah.
But the word that keeps coming back to me is chaotic.
Mm.
And for me, chaos is not necessarily, I mean, it's mostly negative, but it doesn't mean it means disorganization, like not understanding or having a clue of what's going on, not necessarily bad or good. Because I think that during the pandemic, there have been some good things. A lot of people have said that they've saved money. A lot of people have said that they've been able to just relax and to spend more time with their families. Um,
Yeah.
but at the same time, it's been very troublesome. Like there's been a lot of loss, a lot of death, a lot of uncertainty, and just trying to make it through.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. For sure. Um, my word, even though these were my rules, I immediately broke it and said it was eye opening. I guess if you put the hyphen there, it could be one word. But just to speak to what you were saying, you think that you think about some things that could happen, right? You could get hurt, you could lose your job, you could lose a client, you could, you know, but like never in my brain would I've ever thought that our entire country would be forced to shut down, or at least it would have been highly recommended to shut down. Um, the amount of loss, the panic, the opportunities that's presented themselves. Um, I've talked to people recently on the pod, and it was like two people in particular, two entrepreneurs, who was like, yeah, the pandemic sort of forced my hand, and they came out on better for it. And so you just don't know how this chaos is going to impact you, and if are you going to do you need to adjust completely on the fly? Do you need to look at an idea that you had been mulling over, and do you need to pursue that? Like, it's definitely been eye opening, man, and with a lot of good and bad, and inside of that, right?
Yeah, I agree. That's actually like that concept was another thing that kept playing back in my head about the pandemic.
What concept?
Eye-opening. Like when I was thinking about the
Oh,
words, like I don't know if I thought of it in that exact word, but like just it has shown a lot.
yeah.
Even from like you remember maybe like a month into the pandemic, it was people posting like all these images of like Italy and like the gondola, or not the gondola, but the like there's some area where like you could see the fish where you were never able to see them before because it was very high transit area, and like the sky opening up and just like it feeling like people and nature were all just taking a break and coming back to
Well,
life.
so here's the thought. When you think about humans on Earth, we take way more than we give. I mean, I could be generous and say 90-10. We take more than we give, right? And yeah, you saw, I mean, the deer walk around here now, like, they all were already around, but now they're like, there's a nature, removing ourselves has really added to the earth.
Yeah,
It's like if you weren't conscious about the eco-conscious before, I think that if you're paying attention to how the earth, how the world, how nature has responded to us not being around, hopefully it's an eye opener for us all, that we could be doing more and being more conscious of what we're taking.
and we really should, because global warming is an actual thing that like is, I don't know, have you, if you've paid much attention to like the conversations around global warming. But basically, if we don't get our acts together in like the next 3 to 7 years, the world's gonna end in like 20. Like real life. That's what you know some of the scientists are saying. But like I've listened to some podcast. One of the guys that's on MSNBC, I can't think of his name right now, but anyway, he has a podcast and he talks a lot about it, like it's of interest to him, and he has experts come on, and it's really like we need to reduce our carbon. Us in China, we need to reduce our carbon footprint, or we're going to be responsible for ending the world.
Mm.
So,
Yeah, there's something to be said for that. What I didn't have on the list, but you know, felt like the beginning of the end of this year was like Kobe passing.
yeah,
So tragic, man, and surreal.
yeah,
Uh, we know that like people die every day. Like we understand that. But yeah, didn't see that coming.
Listen, this is, it's like one of those moments, like, how they say people remember what they were doing when they heard about Martin Luther King and JFK and all that. For sure, it's a moment that I'm never going to ever, like, I think about it at least once a month, like, at least.
Yeah.
But it was crazy because I was literally sleeping. Kennedy had a gymnastics tournament that started at 7:00 in the morning.
Mm.
And so we did that, got back home, and Cortez and I were taking a nap. And the lady said, there's been a helicopter crash and we've confirmed that it was Kobe Bryant. Literally the first thing I said and thought was, what did she say?
Yeah.
Like, I was just waking up. I was like, what? Like, no, like this is in my dream. Crazy.
Yeah. I was texting with a friend of ours actually, and he was telling me about this new book that he had just bought, The Miseducation of the Negro.
Mm.
It was written in like the 30s, 1930s. And he's like, yeah, I just started, so like it's so far so good, right? And so I was like, oh, okay, it was available for me to down, to buy an electronic version. I'm like, got it, man. Thanks. I'm gonna start digging in. And then like his next text was like, bro, did you hear that Kobe died? And I'm like, what? And so yeah, it's 2020 has been such a bad movie. Um, you know, it was like if an author was writing this, or the passing, the tragic passing of, like, in many instances, like an American hero, right? An American um, icon was really setting the stage for all of this craziness.
The rest of the whole year.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah. Rest in
Yeah.
peace to everybody that was lost on that day in that crash, and then rest in peace to everyone who has who we've lost due to the pandemic, and condolences to everybody that's still dealing with the loss of their loved ones, man. Whew,
And it's just even more crazy just because of the pandemic. Like the way that people have had to grieve has not been normal. You can't see anybody. You can't really bury your loved ones like you normally would have.
Yeah.
It's just, I've just, feel so bad for people who have lost people due to the pandemic or any other reason this year and have not been able to grieve.
Yeah. Had that support that you would typically have, that connection with people. So moving on to our next topic. What's your word to describe the election?
Relief.
Mm.
Relief, I mean, I feel like it's self-explanatory, but really because 45 is a lot to deal with.
Yeah.
Even on top of, I remember when, he was first elected and it was like, okay, this is who we got. Realistically, the president doesn't impact our day-to-day lives immediately. Like it takes a while for their impact to really be felt in our lives. So hopefully, he'll get somebody will whip him into shape and he'll be presidential. That never happened.
Yeah.
And so like just having him as the president just created so much stress over the last 4 years for everyone, like for people, for everyone. Even his supporters, I feel like have been more stressed because they've had to defend him left and right every, you know, the whole time. So I just feel like it's relief, even though, like I said, I feel like the president doesn't really have a direct impact immediately. At least America, most of America said that this type of rhetoric, this type of, we don't stand for that anymore right now in this moment. We have a long way to go still, for sure, but.
Well, I'll just remind you, Tiana, that there was still like 70 million people that voted
I know.
for him. So like, I was thinking about this the other day. There's a small portion that's the exception, but everyone is watching this, wherever you guys are watching this, you know somebody that said they didn't vote for him, they voted for him. Like,
that was the case, I think, in the first election too. Like,
yeah,
people were like, we're not going to vote for him, and that's why the Gallup polls were like, oh, he's not going to win, but so they did.
yeah. All right, let's move on. Oh, I guess I didn't give my word. It's been a shit show. That's all I got. Let's move on. What about virtual school, man? What's your word to describe?
What's your word?
What's my word? Cluster.
Listen, because I didn't want to say the F word.
What?
But that's definitely
What's your word?
fuckery.
We can add our words together.
Cluster fuckery.
Oh my goodness. I mean, I feel like I've beat this drum between us, our conversations, conversations that I've had with other people on the pod, and just in general. I've talked about it so much. I think that talking about the stress of the unknowing, the anxiety around the pandemic, people losing lives, people losing jobs, money. Oh, and then you gotta see your kids every day, all day. There was a point where you'd have to preface every complaint about your children with, the best, the biggest blessing I've ever had. But it was like parents know, like, this shit is hard, man. It's like super hard. And we have to deal with our children. Some of us have to deal with our spouses, which is tough. Could be tough. But we have to deal with how they respond to the stress of the kids being here. In addition to yours, it's a cluster, man. It's a cluster.
It's hard.
But shout out to the parents, shout out to the children. Hopefully we're on the other side of this, and we'll all have a better appreciation for our teachers.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Like when the pandemic first started last school year, I couldn't, like, Kennedy's teacher last year was amazing. Like, she made it so easy. It's been more challenging, but I think it's challenging for everyone. I think it's been challenging for the kids for sure too. I just saw somebody post on Facebook today that their kid who normally was really creative, has just kind of been in a funk. And they asked for Elf on a Shelf. And she was like, for what? You know, it's not real, right? And so, but he was disappointed and she ended up getting it. And once she got it, and she would like, she, you know, really went into it. So she started doing letters for him and, you know, all the stuff that the elf does. And then she said it sparked his creativity. Like it's that, you know, these things where he's feeling like he's engaging, even if it's not, it's an imaginary.
I've mentioned Zara, like her brain and my brain, and she's just added so much reflect. Like she's allowed me so many opportunities to reflect on myself and the things that I struggle with, and like as I see her struggle with certain things, and you know, we were talking earlier off air about me being an extrovert and like the amount of energy that I get from other people, and you know, the connection or lack thereof, like you know, the fact that she's still so bright and so like when I say bright, I mean like her spirit is still like engaged and like it's like yeah, she'll chat us up, but it's like let her chat, like let her like we everybody else has had more contact with their peer group. Bryce has,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? So it's like let her, you know, we watched the Pistons game last night, and she talked the entire time. Like, but that's what you get when you that's Zara, and it's like it's the moment that is more important than the game to her. It's just she with her dad, everybody else sleep, we eating popcorn. You know, it's like it's these small things that like provide that connection, keep that spark. You know, or helps keep the spark. Which kind of goes into our next topic. Is these virtual happy hours like um talking about connection and stuff. What's your word for these virtual happy hours?
Over it. Yeah, over it.
See, I said relieving because I remember when this first started, and it was like, oh man, like I haven't seen anybody, and it was super cool to just see people's faces, you know, and again, it we were afforded the privilege of seeing our friends, where the kids can't just be like, yo, let's coordinate, you know, this, you know, but it was nice to connect with people and like hear people's voice, see people's faces. Um, I definitely haven't had as many, but I don't mind them. I again, that's something that I look forward to because it's sort of it's another way to connect for me.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the extroversion. I'm very much introverted. So, like, for me, this whole Zoom culture, I'm ready. I'm ready for it to be over. Like, there's so, like, already there are too many meetings, but now, like, you don't have to go anywhere and you can do a meeting. Like, I'm over it. But I will say that I have enjoyed, like, you know, like the other day when me, you, and Keita were just on Zoom, kind of hanging out. And like a couple of, maybe about a month ago, I was on with my mom and Auntie Lynn, and we were just on Zoom for hours,
Yeah.
like just as if we were together in the same room. And we sometimes it would just be silent, and we were just there. So that's been cool to be able to feel like you're in the same environment with your family and hang out. Yeah, but like these happy hours that are like meetings and you have to be on and network, I'm over it.
Yeah. So from a sales standpoint, um, it's been helpful because I'm because I still need to get in front of people, and sales. If you have a good if you're with a good company, if you have a good service, it's all about sort of making people aware of that, right? So letting people know what I'm doing and letting them know what the company is about, right? So like, hey, I'm with Capnick Insurance Group. Here's what I'm up to. Here's what they're up to. Here's what we're up to. The opportunity to sort of inform people has been nice. Maybe people will give you. Some people still aren't interested in the meeting. That's just sales. But then some people are more willing to give you some time virtually. So I've had to sort of figure out how to make it work for me as far as um, trying to, service clients and trying to make sure that I am connecting with, prospective, clients for, future clients, right? So I I get what you're saying. I'm fortunate that my company doesn't have a lot of meetings, but I feel like some other groups and everything that I'm a part of make up for that. It's like, wait, y'all ain't even paying me. Why do I see y'all so much? Like, come on. But as far as like me talking to clients, prospective clients, connecting and networking, it's been a good thing, pretty beneficial. Um, we kind of talked about this, but I was hoping that we could kind of zoom out a little bit and talk about like 2020 like as a whole. We talked about the election, the pandemic. We talked about like all these different parts, but like if you had to take a step back and sort of put a word around like what the entire like 2020 has been, what would be your word for it, T?
I mean, you're right. We did talk about it. I think it's that kind of the concept that you were talking about, eye-opening, but I would say illuminating. Just like, perspective, just like maybe perspective is a good word for 2020. Um, just kind of making everybody have to think about things differently, everything. Because when you can't leave your house, how do you get stuff done? How do you relate to your family? And even stuff that I never ever thought about. Um, terrible things like domestic violence increases. Like, what do you do when you can't leave your house and you are in this terrible situation? Like, so just having to think about things differently.
Yeah, yeah. My word is transformative.
Mm.
Um, I to kind of piggyback on what you said, there's been a lot of change, and fluidity has. A lot of people have been rewarded for their ability to adapt and be fluid. So some of us have just, you know, had the privilege of being able to be fluid or flexible. Some people have had to make a conscious effort to increase their flexibility and their being more adaptive to change. And some people have, just based on their circumstances, haven't had the opportunity to move or to change directions as quickly. But I think that everyone is kind of looking. Most people are looking at themselves, looking at their line of work, their industry, trying to figure out if this is something that's sustainable. can my business, can my occupation, can my company, can this industry that I'm in, can it sustain?
And unfortunately, like it's been, I've had a lot of conversations recently with business owners um, who are like, if something doesn't change in the next 3 months, we're out of business. If the government is not providing assistance, we're gone. I think I mentioned last time or something, maybe it was just you and I talking, I can't remember, but we lost a client recently and it really sucks because it wasn't due to anything that we, weren't doing, but they just couldn't, they're not making the revenue that they're used to making. They have 3 stores. And even our, like, what we're responsible for has increased exponentially, like their online presence, their online business and sales. But it's still just not enough to make up for what they've lost.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I think that for us specifically, it presents a unique opportunity because we are digitally savvy. We do know how to bring companies online, but at the same time, they're like, where am I going to find the money to spend on this in order to do what I know I need to do? But I think a lot of businesses have recognized that this digital thing is not going away. Like those who either were on the cusp of creating their digital presence or, had already had one, really thrived. Like I know a business owners who their business skyrocketed. I know I've been doing a lot of shopping online. So.
Yeah. No, I think about it. I left a company in the middle of this. Um, and I didn't leave because of the pandemic. Um, I thought that the space that that company was in could still do well, but you have to embrace sort of what's in front of you, right? I think that this working from home, this remote working thing has led people to feel really like uneasy about what their people are doing, as if people weren't at the office on Facebook for 3 or 4 hours a day,
Right.
or so and so is in somebody's office chatting for 30 minutes at a time, and then going to somebody else's office and so there's time wasters, and I think that I think people have probably a better appreciation for their own time, what they can get done. The 4-hour work week, that book really speaks to that whole piece, right? And the concept of actually being able to do more with a lot less if you really sort of are concentrated on that. But for myself, I mean, the timing couldn't be better for me starting at Capnick, and I just feel really blessed to have made the change when I did. I mean, I met these people, my mentor Angela and my colleague now Erica back in December of last year, and we connected and didn't think much else about it. And then to think a year later that we're all colleagues and sort of working on the same thing, trying to figure out how to help one another. And there's this mentor-mentee relationship. I think that you could meet somebody, feel good about them, and a year later you could be sort of team members, kind of. You go from going, oh, what are you up to? What business are you in? Sort of on your own boats, rowing, and now y'all in the same boat, kind of rowing the same way, and like it's just you just don't know what a meeting, a interaction and encounter will do for your life.